guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a crazy video. First, we're going to be covering FaZe Jarvis and his run through the World Cup yesterday. Now, unfortunately for him, he was so close to qualifying. He actually had an incredible stat line. He had an average of 3.1 kills and an average placement of 14.9 and an average of 9.1 points per game. Pretty much good enough to qualify in most regions, but in the West, he wasn't able to because he only played a total of 7 matches out of 10. And he was extremely upset after this, guys. He basically called out Epic Games and Fortnite, and he said this in a tweet. So I don't qualify because Fortnite doesn't let me in a game, and every game I play, I have a 5-minute queue. Thanks, I just lost 50k, and there's nothing I could have done. Let's go. And then in another tweet, he said that he had a 22-minute queue time. Absolutely unreal. So obviously, if I was in Jarvis's shoes, I would be extremely upset as well. So I reached out to him on his stream and I asked him what his final thoughts were on this and how Epic Games can possibly fix this awful mechanic. Let's roll it.
Oh shit, the Fortnite guy, what's up my guy? Hey Jarvis, is the Fortnite guy. I'm making a video about the queue times and how they're hurting a lot of players now that you've got a full night to think about your 22-minute queues and what. What's your final thoughts, bro? I beg, bro. All like, oh my god, I don't even want to think about it, but all I can just say is, I don't know how they need to do it, but they need to make them a lot shorter. What I was thinking they could do as well, like if you, like say for your last game, if you queue before 7 o'clock or whenever it ends, sure, I think you should like be able to play that game.
It should, the queue time should just keep going on until. Yeah.
Like you've already left, like you might have left your games to queue for another game, and like I don't know, it's just so dumb. I waited in a queue for 3 minutes and then got kicked out, and that's how I didn't qualify. But we got next week. But yeah, that's how I feel. They just need to somehow make them shorter, or just do that thing at the end. Because like, bro, it can make such a difference, that one last game. If they did, like, bro, if they had done that, that could be sick. That would have changed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Sorry if it was hard to hear him. I literally boosted his microphone as much as I could, but basically overall his idea is really cool. I think if Epic Games could somehow implement that, a lot of players would be a lot less upset, and it would allow everybody a good chance to get a final game in, no matter when they finish their game, as long as it's not after it ends. So now transitioning into the next part of the video, I actually wanted to invite the player who qualified over Jarvis onto the channel and ask him a whole bunch of questions, and specifically that one about Jarvis and if he thinks the queue times need to be changed. And some of you might actually recognize his name. He is the same kid that went to Ninja's Vegas LAN over a year ago, which by the way was the very first LAN in Fortnite, and he beat Ninja in one of his matches, and he got a lot of clout at that time for that. I think a lot of people kind of forgot who he is, but he's back now and he qualified for the Fortnite World Cup. Let's go ahead and jump into that discussion. Yo, what is going on, guys? Here we are with 40R Storm, one of the winners from Ninja's Las Vegas event, and also qualified for the World Cup yesterday out of the West server. What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
Good, man, good. I'm glad to have you on. So let's go and jump straight into it. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? How old are you? I
was born in Baltimore. I was raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm 16 years old.
Nice, man. Do you like living there?
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Let me ask you this. Do you go to school or do you do online schooling?
No, I go to public school.
Oh, really? Okay, that's impressive then. So how did you get into gaming and eventually Fortnite?
I got into gaming from my dad, and then Fortnite, just like friends at school playing that game.
Oh, okay. So a lot of people are playing it. You decided to get into it. Were you ever like a competitive gaming player prior to Fortnite?
Not really. I didn't play any shooters either. It's my first shooter, so.
Oh, wow, really? That's super impressive. This is your first shooter game. When did you start playing Fortnite then?
I started around February, around the Valentine event and stuff like that.
So you've been playing since like, I think season 2 or 3 then? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Ninja's Vegas event then. What did your parents think about that when you wanted to compete in it?
Well, we were gonna take a trip to Vegas anyway. Like, we don't really take that many trips, so we were gonna go anyway. And then I wanted to compete in it, and they were like, sure, like, why not? Because we were already there. And yeah, they freaked out when I won.
Oh, so it was kind of like a convenience. Like, say you kind of got a little lucky that your trip was planned during the event, right?
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome, dude. That's crazy, actually. So let's talk a little bit more about that event. It was the first one, pretty much the first LAN in all of Fortnite. I know at the time, not a lot of people took it serious because it was kind of just for people who lived in Vegas. I don't think a lot of guys flew out for it. But if you look back at it right now, there was actually a lot of players that are really good now who competed at that event. So what was it like? What was your overall experience competing? Was that your first LAN?
Yeah. There's like a bunch of people there, like spectating and stuff like that. It was pretty intense, and I was pretty nervous about it. But
So did you like get to meet Ninja? Did you guys like come face to face and talk a little bit, or like after you won, did he congratulate you?
yeah, I did after.
Oh, that's awesome. That must have been like very surreal because at that time he was like the biggest star ever.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So what did you actually win from Ninja's event?
Yeah, I got 2.5 grand for that.
Oh, okay. So yeah, your parents were probably definitely excited. And now you're
Yeah,
getting
it was
50
super
grand.
cool. Yup.
That's awesome, man. From Ninja event all the way to the World Cup. Amazing. So when did you realize you were one of the best players in the world and that you actually had a chance to qualify for the World Cup?
I don't know. I just started practicing, and like I would do really well in scrims, so just gave me the confidence that I needed.
So, what has it been like competing in Fortnite? Obviously, there's a lot of changes every week, and recently, we haven't even known if there's going to be vehicles in the qualifiers. How do you adapt, and what's your opinion on all of the crazy twists that Epic Games has thrown at us?
Well, like every week, like you have like a good 7 days to practice, so that's enough time to adapt, usually.
Okay, so you're kind of in the mindset that whatever they throw at me doesn't really matter. I'll be there, and I'm still going to play good?
Yep.
Awesome. I actually like that mindset a lot because you see a lot of these like older pros, or at least the ones that have been established in the game for a very long time. They kind of just complain a lot and they don't really focus on improving and actually adapting to what they're being thrown at. And that's why we see a lot of players like you and a lot of other unknown guys qualifying over them.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty difficult though. Like with all the changes, it's like a lot of bumps in the road. It makes it kind of difficult to keep consistency.
What would you say is like some of the hardest changes they've given us?
When they took out vehicles, that's probably one of the hardest because it changes the game completely.
Yeah, agreed. And also at the same time, they took the pump out. What did you think about that?
Yeah, that kind of sucked, but when they fixed the combat shotgun, it was a lot better.
Okay, so looking back at it now, we've had a few weeks in this meta. Do you think like it's fine? Do you like it better than the pump meta, or do you still kind of prefer the pump meta?
I definitely don't like it more, but it's reasonable. Like I could deal with it.
So let's talk a little bit more about last night and how you qualified. I didn't really see you up there on the list that high because I was scouting the leaderboards the entire time, but near the end you kind of just took off and took control of that spot. When did you realize that you actually had a chance to qualify?
I probably the first hour and a half I had like only 20 points and I ended with 68, so I really like popped off my last few games. Like just kept the consistency, and yeah, I hope for the best.
So that very last game you were competing in, you just knew if you popped off you were gonna go?
Yeah, 100%. I knew if I placed pretty well, I got like top 15 and a few kills, then that was probably enough.
And you did it. You clutched out, man. So after you actually qualified, what was the first thought in your head? How did you feel?
I thought it was like a dream. I thought I was dreaming. I didn't think it was real.